Transportation is an important function of human society. Imagine living in a world in which transportation only occurred by foot. The purpose of transportation remains roughly the same. It is to move from one destination to another with speed, load, and economy. In the spirit of transportation, you and your group will engineer and build an automobile powered solely by the potential energy of a rat trap.
Catch me riding dirty, tryna catch me riding dirty, tryna catch me riding dirty, tryna catch me riding dirty. My music so loud, I'm swinging. They hoping that they gon' catch me riding dirty, tryna 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 catch me riding dirty.
Before building, Mr. Rakowska split us up into teams of 2. Step 1 in the engineering and design process is identify the constraints and criteria. We do this so we can figure out just what the problem is and create a solution.
During this rat racer project, our goal was to design a cheap rat racer that would travel far and fast using any materials that Mr. R allowed us to use. Some of our constraints were we were only allowed to use one Victor rat trap. We could only have one CD on our rat racer. We had 2 weeks to build it, but we only were allowed to use about $3.25 on materials, and it had to be an authentic design that we came up with ourselves.
2 other constraints that we had to keep in mind was that we could not use a rat racer kit, and there were 2 angle changes on the racing track. The criteria for our rat racer was to develop the fastest rat trap racer, create one that can go the farthest distance, and create a racer that can travel the length of the track.
And some of the solutions we had to our constraints is we only used the one rat trap. My group decided to go with a 3-wheel design, and we brought a lot of materials from home. A lot of the other groups did that too to save some money, and we built several different prototypes to see which one would work the best.
Step 2 was research.
This is Zach and Connor, and we were Super Jeep, and at the beginning of our project we researched 1 primary source and 3 secondary sources.
And we found that the bigger the wheels, they were better for distance, and the longer body was better for distance, and the smaller wheels and smaller body were better for speed.
Talking about our rat racers, I learned from the research that you need to have good wheels that go straight. You need to make sure you have weight in the back so your car doesn't spin out, and also you need to make sure it goes fast so you can keep people in the finish line.
Step 3 was to create a possible blueprint design based on the research. During the engineering and design process, each group evaluated their prototype 1 and redesigned for the next trial. During this project, each group had to make a blueprint for each prototype. The blueprints seen here are blueprints for prototype 2. During this step, each team investigated 4 designs they came up with of rat trap racers. After this, they discussed the pros and cons of each design. After that, they rationalized which design, or hybrid design, will enter their prototype construction. Here are pros and cons of different designs.
We built a car with a short body using 4 tires, and it was heavyweight. Some of the cons were it wasn't as fast as if we had a lightweight car, but it traveled a pretty good distance because it was heavier, and the 4 tires kept it more stable as opposed to having 3 where it could wobble a little bit. Another con to having 4 tires was it was kind of hard to keep all 4 straight. So we did have a problem with it curving, but we compensated that by angling the tires in the opposite direction if it was curving and added weight.
Okay, our car was made of really light wood and had a really long body and only 3 wheels. And this made our car really light. There's a bunch of pros and cons to how our car was. The lightweight made it easy for the trap to propel forward and down the track, so it was faster than some people's, but it wasn't heavy to get it to go really, really far. Also, with the light wood, it wasn't very durable, and it broke during one of the races.
During step 5, the groups constructed the prototype. They had to compile a list of all the materials required to build their rat racer, and then they had to construct the prototype. And then after they created it, they had to briefly describe the building process, all of the good and all of the bad.
During step 5 of our building process, we came into both pros and cons for our rat racer. Our pros was that it was going pretty far, we were finishing, but the cons of it wasn't accurate where it was going, and we could only use 1 spring for our rat racer. Either that or it would spin out. The cons, obviously, it was spinning out and we couldn't get it to go as far as we wanted it to go. And also our front wheels and stable, we had to use hot glue to do our front axle on, and that wasn't staying as well. So that was our pros and cons.
Our first prototype really didn't work out very well. We got started a little late on construction, so we kind of threw the axles and the body together real quick, so they weren't really straight. And when we got to our first races, our racer curved left a lot, and we ended up not even finishing the races. So during reconstruction for our second prototype, we had to completely take off the axles and redo the frame to make sure they were symmetrical, so our racer would travel more straight.
Our building process went really smooth for our prototype 1. We were done with our research really early, so we were able to start our building really early, and we got it all perfect. It had curved left for a while, but we just had to fix the front axle because it was a little uneven, but after that it ran straight and it ran good until it broke during one of the races again because of the lightweight material.
Step 6 was for the groups to test and evaluate their prototype. To test their prototypes, groups conducted 5 displacement trials and 5 speed trials. After doing these trials, each group shared their data with the rest of the class. After this data was shared, each person was to calculate the average displacement for the class and calculate the standard deviation for the displacement for the class.
Our first prototype wasn't very good. We used Hot Wheel back wheels, and they weren't very straight, so ours would go into the wall every time. Our front wheels weren't very stable, so we had to fix that. And then for the last race day, somebody's anonymous person cut our string, so mine did a front flip the first race, which wasn't too good, but we did win the distance, so we ended up tying for second place.
Step 7 was to communicate about the prototype. Groups were required to communicate their results via digital media, including drawings and tables and graphs to help explain what their data was in a creative and interesting way.
So for our step 7, we found that our data showed that our average distance was 3.64 meters, and we did not finish the race, so we could not calculate speed over to the finish line. And for our prototype 2, then our average distance was 26.02, and we did finish that, and our average speed we calculated to be 2.82 meters per second.
Okay, the average displacement for our class was 19.3 meters, and the standard deviation for our class was 9.4 meters. Super Jeep's area under the curve was 78%, which is one standard deviation away from the average.
During Step 8, the groups were supposed to redesign and reflect. The groups were supposed to tell how they would redesign their prototype and why, and what were the positive and negative design aspects of their racer.
Okay, so from prototype 1 to prototype 2, we changed the back axle from being even with the trap to underneath, because when it was even, the string wasn't coming off of the back axle, because when it was pulling it, it would just keep the line straight instead of at an angle, so it wouldn't come off. So when we put it underneath, it actually increased the speed of the car and also increased the productivity because the string came off every time. And so our car had a positive displacement and speed each round.
Our prototype didn't have an arm, so when we put the arm on it, helped pull a longer distance so the car would go farther and stuff, and it helped us with the distance and made it go farther. And
The only other thing that we really changed is we moved the trap closer, and that was just so that we could put the arm on there to increase the pull distance, which increases force, therefore increases the overall distance of the car. The arm, it approximately pulled to about 3 feet before the hill, so it gained a lot of speed actually going down the hill, which gave us a time of approximately 7.5 seconds on average.
For our first rat racer, we had several different things that weren't really working out too well. Like our back wheels, we originally used these wood wheels, but they were really wobbly and didn't get much traction. So we ended up changing it to use these record wheels with this wire cord around the outside, which gave us a lot more traction, so our rat racer could get going a lot better. And then we decided on our second prototype to move our rat trap up on our frame so we could add this lever, and the lever allowed for more leverage and more power so our rat racer would go faster. And also we decided to take the rubber off of our front wheel because it had too much resistance when the wheel was turning, and this was, when we took the rubber off, our front wheel became a lot more smooth and rotated a lot better, and which made our rat racer go farther.
Okay, the first prototype wasn't this one. We had a longer body and it was made of really light wood and it worked really good, but since it was made of all light material, it snapped during one of the races prior to the final race day. So I tried to make a new one, but it didn't really work because the first one was really level and this one is not, and obviously does not have a long body. It has the same tires, but not the same body, not the same front wheel. This is a great example of over-engineering because I just had to change my first design that worked to try and beat everybody else, and in the end that was a bad idea.